my family once having left.
Do you have any parents or do you have any relatives or family ties with Cuba?
No longer.
No longer.
We did have some of the much older people at the time didn't leave. They felt that things were going to change, and it was a great hardship for them to pick up and leave the country that they were so close to and they'd lived in all their lives. So my great-grandmothers and my great-aunts and so on did pass away in Cuba and were never left. But all of my grandparents did leave, and now there are no family members remaining. Everybody has left.
Yeah. But in your family, you keep the traditions, and you talk a lot about Cuba, or you follow the events there, and so. I saw a little program that you have written a cookbook as well.
Yes, and that was a cookbook that was focused around a family party that is very Cuban. We've lived in the United States, but we keep many Cuban traditions alive. On Christmas Eve, we have the classic, for example, this is just one example, we have the classic huerco asado and black beans and rice, yuca, and we keep our Cuban traditions alive.
Are your parents very bitter? Or did they come over it, or are they still frustrated with the situation there in Cuba?
Yes. I don't think that it's possible to ever completely recover.
Did they lose a lot when they fled?
Well, yes, they lost everything.
They lost, yes, of course. Yes, of course.
They had
a house and...
they had property, they had things, they were making a life for themselves.
Yes.
And they, as we all know, any funds, any assets that anybody had were completely taken. The minute you applied for the visa, you were considered an enemy of the revolution, and everything was confiscated. They left Cuba with nothing but, I think, a change of clothing, a suitcase, and that was it. Not even photographs were allowed to leave the country.
Have you followed the situation in Cuba lately? It comes out much more information as internet is, and communication is easier. So it seems that there is a much bigger opportunity to get news out.
Yes,
Cuba.
yes.
And much more is, in spite of everything. And now with Twitter, we just went from the computer to hear the latest about this lynching mobs they had, and they attacked this fantastic woman, the mother of Zapata, Orlando Zapata, who was killed, in prison after a heart attack. And this Sunday they attacked her and a group of people who were going to the grave, to Zapata's grave, and they hit them and beat them and took out the pants of Reina Luisa, an old woman, and they put a cloth over her mouth with gasoline.
Oh no, I did not.
It was very, very brutal. And, this came out, by Twitter and the mobiles, and they take away the mobiles from the opposition as well.
Yes.
But they always find a solution.
Yes, yes.
But I wonder, these kind of news comes to you at times, or in May, for instance, there was in Los Angeles a march for the Ladies in White.
The Ladies in White, yes.
Did you hear about it?
Yes, and I wasn't there at the time. Actually, we were involved in some book business at the time, but I was aware of it, and I know of people who were in the march.
Yes.
And yes, I do keep up on as much as I can the situation in Cuba, and it matters very much to me. It matters very much to my family, and we have great hope. Although sometimes it's painful to keep that hope alive after 50 years, but we have great hope that one day soon Cuba will be free. My greatest dream is to be able to someday return to Cuba with my parents.
Yes.
And if that could happen,
yes,
it would be good.
Let's hope that.
Let's hope that someday.
Yeah, there's so many people who want us to go back and see. And my husband cannot go back.
Right.
But you wrote a book about Cuba. You said. What was that book about? And it will come out in Swedish later on.
In April.
In
I
April.
believe it's when it's coming out in hardback in April. That was actually my first novel. The name of it, you might need to help me with the pronunciation of it. The Swedish title is Drömhjälte.
Drömhjälte. It was the dream hero.
Dreamheart.
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 Hjärta. Drömhjärta.
Yes. And this is a story about a family during the revolution, half of which stays, some of the family stays following the revolution, and the other family leaves as political refugees to the United States. And it is a story of two cousins and the friendship and the relationship they maintain via letters as they tell each other of their lives and the different lives that take place. And because I have
important story.
Yes.
Because it's a very important story for all Cubans also to know. Because this is so real. I mean, one family in Cuba went out, one part.
That's right. And I think, that so much of the world is not aware of the true suffering and true desperation that Cuban people are living with every day. And they aren't aware of how oppressive the government is and how flagrant are the human rights violations and what little freedom and what fear the Cuban people live with. The Cuban culture is a very happy culture, como se dice. Son muy alegres, very happy. And they're able to smile and laugh and sing and dance under the most difficult circumstances. So I think that I've known people who have gone to Cuba and have told me, oh, well, the people seem so happy, and you hear music in the streets and you hear dancing. And I say, no, that doesn't mean, the Cubans are very good at laughing and dancing on the outside, but on the inside their hearts are breaking. And this is what has been going on for 50 years.
How do these, in this book, how do they connect, the exiled and the inside?
Well,
do they understand, and the exiled boy or girl?
It's the girl, little cousin. Well, I think the story begins with this sense of great promise. I think there was great promise. The Cuban Revolution was a middle-class revolution that was primarily motivated by a great desire to get Batista out. And Batista was a very corrupt dictator himself. And Castro came in with great promises that he was going to bring democracy in, and that's really what garnered so much of
university people and intellectuals.
Yes, and much of my family was in support of the revolution.
Yes.
But it soon became apparent that this was not who he was, and that he had deceived and betrayed many of his own followers and supporters, and then everything changed. So the story begins with that idea of promise and hope, but quickly the situation decompensates, and then we see not just the political situation decompensating, but really the demise of an entire country, and people who have now been imprisoned for 50 years. And it's a very sad story, because this is a country that doesn't really have any great strategic power, doesn't have any great natural resources, and that's part of the reason that things have just sort of remained stagnant for so many years. But there's a great cultural wealth that Cuba has in terms of music and the arts. And I'm hoping, it has so much to offer. And my hope in writing the story was to bring some of that to light and raise some awareness.
Yes.
And, there are still many people who think that Cuba is better off than it was before the revolution, which is really a horrible lie that has been propagated by an incredible propaganda machine.
Yeah.
And, people so often believe what they hear and what they read from, even the World Health Organization. I'm sorry I'm rambling. I can go on and on.
But you know that the UN organization all infiltrated by the country.
Yes.
And they come out with all these lies.
Yes.
The World Health Organization and UNICEF
and they believe.
And UNESCO is... and so every time they come out...